You don't know me. Pharisee. Chapter 16, Embers. Summary. Finally, after 2 months of cracking my head over this monster of a chapter, it's complete. I call it monster cause I broke my own record again, and this baby is 40 pages long. I hope you guys enjoy it. Infinite thanks to Mags for test reading it and Mulakili on Tumblr for proofreading it. Reminder, as you could see from how long it took to make this chapter 1, have no idea when the next one will come. They just happen. It may take days like it may take weeks. So please don't pressure me and ask me when the next one is coming because I don't know and it's maddening and stressful. Thank you. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. The point of visitation is to see how your loved one is doing and make them feel better, not stress them to the point of fainting, Longwavy said, crossing his arms sternly and chastising Nino and Aaliyah after pulling them out of Adrian's room. Sorry, drive. Longwavy, Aaliyah and Nino apologized in unison, eyes lowered to the ground. Adrian is still in a very delicate state, he explained. He went through a difficult experience and it will take a while for him to recover fully. Please be mindful of him. Yes, sir, Nino said, lowering his head in shame. Whatever did you tell him to get that reaction? The doctor asked with a raised brow. Nino looked at Aaliyah, who looked back at him with the same wide eyes. Exams. Aaliyah said suddenly. We told him that he'd have to catch up when he returned. Yup, exams. Nino agreed, nodding energetically and smiling widely. Really tough exams. The doctor furrowed his brows suspiciously, lowering his glasses to look pointedly at them. Aaliyah could have sworn his eyes focused on her bag for a split second before shifting back to the teens in front of him. All right then, doctor. Longwavy said, you can stay a little longer. Though you might want to apologize for startling him when he wakes. Please do not do it again. Yes, drive. Longwavy. Thank you. Aaliyah said, moving aside to let the doctor in to tend to Adrian, who had begun to stir. Good morning, drive. Longwavy greeted the groggy Adrian as his eyes fluttered open. It seems you had a bit of a rude awakening. He gave Aaliyah and Nino a glance as they followed him in and they smiled nervously. Adrian blinked at him in confusion, sleep clinging to his mind as Longwavy came around his bed to check on his monitor. His head then turned to Aaliyah and Nino, and all three of them watched in slow motion how Adrian's face went from groggy sleepiness to wide-eyed panic. Hey, chill dude, it's okay, Nino said hurriedly, then hesitated. I'm sorry about startling you about, the exams. Nino winked an eye at Adrian, who just narrowed his eyes at his best friend in confusion, tilting his head to a side. Exams. Adrian repeated dumbly. Yeah, we're sorry for worrying you about the exams we were talking about earlier, we didn't mean to upset you, Aaliyah pitched in, emphasizing each word by tilting her head in the direction of her bag with a pointed stare. Adrian looked down, barely making out a pair of tiny green eyes peeking at him from the darkness in Aaliyah's bag, and something clicked in his head. Oh, those exams, Adrian said dubiously, brows knitted in confusion as he fell into the lie. Yeah. Yep, it was totally exams, but don't worry dude, Mrs. Bustier understands. Nino said again with a forced smile. Doctor. Longwavy just stared at them with furrowed brows but decided not to press for an explanation. He then turned to Adrian, his approach once again gentle. You doing okay? Adrian sighed and pinched his nose with his index and thumb. I think I need a breather. Despite being in a spacious room, Adrian suddenly felt suffocated and trapped. He wanted to move. He needed a change of scenery to clear his head. He wished he could just transform into Chad Noir and escape everything and disappear for a time. How he missed just feeling healthy and energetic. No pain, no sickness, no heartache. Nothing but exploring the Parisian skyline with his lady, secrets concealed, smiles on their faces as they flew from roof to roof, wind rustling their hair. He had taken it all for granted. Adrian's heart churned and he had to close his eyes to stop the sting building under his eyelids. Yeah, fresh air sounds good. Can't he, walk around? Nino asked the doctor, maybe take him someplace to relax. He's probs tired of being on that bed for so long. Sadly, he can't leave yet. There's still much to work on before he can drive. Longwavy explained, though he then tapped a finger against his chin, but perhaps if Adrian is feeling better we could arrange something next week. He turned to Adrian with a smile. Adrian perked up, are you serious? I can leave. You'd have to keep to the premises, and we still have to see how you're doing, but maybe by this time next week you can make do without all of these, the doctor said, motioning to the several tubes and cables connected to him. It may not make your father too happy, but a few minutes out should be fine. Next week sounds great, Adrian said. Well then, for now you need to rest, so we'll take it easy for the rest of today, alright? Longwavy said, then turned to Aaliyah and Nino with a stern stare. Maybe you can talk about these exams next week. Yes, we can talk about this next week then, Aaliyah said, looking at Adrian meaningfully. I'll take care of things meanwhile. She motioned at her bag with her head again. Adrian quickly gathered she was talking about Plag, whose eyes he could see peeking from beneath the lapel. Oh, okay, Adrian said dubiously, his eyes meeting Plag's, who seemed to be nodding reassuringly at him, but Adrian still couldn't shake the unsettling feeling in his chest that came with knowing someone else knew about Plag now. The potential danger that the three of them were now in because of that knowledge. Oh, by the way, Aaliyah saved your phone, Nino said, fishing the device out of his pocket, so like, if you get too bored or something, just hit us up. Hey, thanks, Adrian said, taking the phone and charger from Nino. He then hesitated. You didn't happen to get my ring, too, did you? I think I may have dropped it in the accident. Adrian looked pointedly at Aaliyah, his gaze anxious and hoping she knew what he meant. Oh, right. I held onto it, Aaliyah said, sinking her hand in her bag to retrieve the ring, which Adrian guessed had been safeguarded by Plag. Here you go. Aaliyah handed him the silver ring and, after checking that it was the right one, he breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, Aaliyah, really. Hey, no problem, Aaliyah said, her eyes empathetic. That ring seems precious to you, Longwavy, who had remained silent until then, commented idly, watching the piece of jewelry with mild interest. It must be really important. Adrian was taken aback by the doctor's expression, a tingly feeling running up his spine. Yes, my mother gave it to me, Adrian lied, putting the ring back on his scarred finger and fisting his hand protectively. I would have hated to lose it. Longwavy smiled. I can imagine. Well, I'm glad that you got it back. Now, I think it's time for Adrian to rest up. He turned to Aaliyah and Nino and nodded his head. Oh, right. Well, we'll catch up next week, dude, Nino said, waving at Adrian as Aaliyah and he made their way to the door. Yeah, see you next week, Adrian called back, watching Aaliyah and Nino's retreating backs, and trying to ignore the anxiety building up in the pit of his stomach. There was going to be a lot to talk about. 2. Marinette plus 336533257. Adrian 9:32 p.m. Hey Marinette. It's me Adrian. I got my phone back today so I thought I'd text you. I know you're still sleeping but I really wanted to TLAK to you. Adrian 9:33 p.m. Aaliyah said it would be a good idea to send you texts even if you can't read these messages right now. Adrian 9:33 p.m. Sorry if I typo, it's hard to type with one hand. Adrian 9:36 p.m. So I don't know where to begin. It's a long story. I'm in the hospital right now. I'm in the room next to yours actually, which is pretty awesome even if I can't go visit you right now. I'm okay. Or I'll be okay at least. I hope. There's so much I want to tell you. Adrian 9:38 p.m. I guess I can begin by saying that I miss you. A lot. It's not the same without you Marinette. I hope you're okay. Adrian 9:40 p.m. I need to go to sleep now. I'll text you tomorrow. Bye. The week passed by at a snail's pace to Adrian. Instead of getting better, like he had thought he would, nothing seemed to really change. Whenever he was awake, the pain would come and go at irregular intervals, and when it hit with a vengeance. It was so bad at times it felt like he was back on square one, his body alight with piercing pain, his lips parted in agonized cries. When he could no longer tolerate it, they would pump painkillers into his bloodstream, completely knocking him out, or at the very least, sinking him into a state between sleep and wakefulness where he felt nothing, not even himself. He only seemed to get visitors during these instances, and it was in such moments that Adrian would register the oddest things when the line between reality and hallucination blurred. He would see his father or Natalie lingering over him, voices subdued as they talked among themselves. He even thought he felt his father caress his head a few times, but he was never entirely sure if it had really happened or it was his mind playing tricks on him. He also thought he saw Marinette's mother checking up on him from time to time, kindly tucking him in when his blankets shifted, or gently stroking his cheek when involuntary noises escaped his lips, whispering comforting words in his ear. Sometimes, he was so far gone he'd see a glowing red light hovering around him, fleeting and mesmerizing. But whenever someone opened the door, it'd disappear and Adrian would forget all about it. His most frequent visitor, however, was Dr. Longwavy. He would look after him, jotting notes on his clipboard, checking the monitors, or cleaning his burns. Thinking Adrian asleep, he would often drop his kindly facade and sport a serious grimace on his face, concern lining his features every time he reviewed his notes on Adrian's status. One night, based on Longwavy's dejected sigh and saddened eyes, Adrian could tell with growing dread what was passing through the doctor's mind. No progress. With heart pounding, Adrian would hear Longwavy talk to himself, saying things Adrian could barely make out in a hushed, worried voice. Things about him. Things about his health and stagnant state, how it seemed that although he wasn't worsening, he had yet to improve. Sometimes Adrian even thought he heard someone responding to Longwavy, catching a little whisper within the room, but he could never see who he was talking to or decipher what they were saying. Other times, he would express the same concerns over the phone with someone, though Adrian could never figure out who was at the other end of the line. All he knew was that, so far, things weren't going as smoothly as he was originally led to believe, and he began to feel the seed of uncertainty take root in his heart. Unwilling to deal with the thought, he'd often take solace in his drug-induced sleep, dreaming beautiful dreams with Marinette, his one respite from his deplorable existence. They'd spend their time creating ridiculous shapes in the sky, changing the colors of nature around them, or racing each other across the vast plain. He often found himself wanting to sleep forever, laughing with Marinette somewhere where there was no pain and he could forget all his worries. But his wish was not to be. When the morphine would run out in time for his scheduled daily checkup, he'd once again wake up to his daunting reality in the same dull room, with numb limbs, and a lingering hint of pain the depleting morphine couldn't hide. As days passed with his prognosis unchanged, his feelings of desperation began to grow. He began to feel the claws of hopelessness clutch at him, trying to pull him under to wrap him in a veil of sorrow he couldn't break out from. He felt trapped in his own body, his mind swirling with negativity and what-ifs. He felt that if it wasn't for the sedatives numbing him, he would have already ripped every tube and wire out of his body and fled the room, if only to be able to move, to feel, to live again. Some nights it was just too much. When he was completely alone and his mind wasn't so drugged that he could control his movements, he'd shakily reach for his phone, tears in his eyes, and type random messages to Marinette to keep himself sane. He'd say all and nothing, like telling her he missed her, telling her he couldn't wait for her to wake up. Telling her about the pain and the dark, self-deprecating thoughts in his mind. Thanking her for all the things she'd done for him, and apologizing for everything he could think of. Telling her how he couldn't wait to go back to sleep to see her, telling her how he wished she was really there. And although it pained him to never receive an answer, he'd do all this until exhaustion took him or the nurses were forced to put him under again, his body in too much pain to allow him a natural sleep. However, on the 6th day since Aaliyah and Nino's visit, Adrian finally exhibited a hint of improvement. He could tolerate pain long enough that they could remove his feeding tube from his abdomen and give him normal food again. The food was usually liquid and flavorless, but swallowing was still a feat in and of itself. He had to be spoon-fed, his grasp too weak and unsteady to hold the spoon on his own. His mouth would move slowly as he got used to the feeling of food in his mouth again after nearly 3 weeks of not tasting a bite, constantly fighting the rising waves of nausea in his stomach with oftentimes unsuccessful, messy results. Despite the unpleasantries, Adrian forced himself to eat, even when he felt anything but hunger and his spirits were at an all-time low. He felt like death, and probably looked like it too, judging by the concerned faces of Longwavy and Natalie, whenever she was around to check up on him. Faking a smile had become too much of a hassle, so he didn't bother with it anymore. He had also lost all interest in talking, filling the room with an uncomfortable silence. Even Gabriel had soon questioned Adrian's caretakers on his lack of interaction, but despite Adrian's nearly non-existent progress, they assured him he was doing fine. Adrian did not bother contradicting them, and Gabriel would look at him with pity, at times holding his hand in a comforting gesture before he had to leave, which Adrian appreciated even if he couldn't show it. Nino and Aaliyah would send him texts often, but he never had the spirit to text back, letting the phone buzz on without a response, part of him salty that the buzzing wasn't ever from Marinette, even though he knew full well why that was. Overall, only one thing rounded his head, a question swimming in Adrian's head, terrible and unrelenting. Why wasn't he getting better? Could it be that Cataclysm's damage was permanent? Untreatable? He couldn't tell, and it was eating at him, killing what little hope he still clung to. He thought being in the hospital would make everything better, but in reality, the change had been minimal. It was all still there, but now he had more pain-blocking resources at his disposal. It was but an illusion. On the 7th day, Adrian woke up in a decidedly morose mood, barely uttering a word as he was greeted for the day and fed. He slowly licked his lips after swallowing up the last spoonful of porridge the nurse offered him, giving off a despondent sigh as he closed his tired eyes. You finished the whole bowl this time, well done, Longwavy praised gently as he watched the nurse remove the table and empty food tray from Adrian's bed. That's good news. Adrian supposed that it was. This time around, he hadn't thrown up his food 2 spoonfuls in like he had done several times yesterday. He still felt terribly sick to his stomach, and didn't respond to Longwavy's comment, huffing low under his breath and turning his head away. Longwavy furrowed his brows, but waited until the nurse left the room before he spoke again. Adrian, are you all right? Longwavy asked him softly, sitting on his bedside. Adrian decidedly kept his eyes shut, completely quiet. I would like it if you would tell me what's on your mind. Longwavy insisted gently. Adrian didn't respond for a full minute, until finally, with a sigh, he opened his eyes, which were now wet and glassy, staring blankly at the wall beyond Longwavy. Why do you lie to me? Came Adrian's soft whisper. Longwavy cocked his head in confusion, arching an eyebrow. Pardon. I'm not going to be fine, Adrian said softly in a croaky voice, am I? What makes you think that? Of course you are going to be fine. I've heard you, Adrian confessed, when you think I'm not listening. You tell someone I'm not making progress, that you don't know why nothing is working. Longwavy stared, his mouth gaping. It seemed to Adrian that the doctor hadn't realized Adrian could still hear him even when he was sedated, able to pick up whispers here and there and putting 2 and 2 together. Longwavy closed his mouth, and cleared his throat lightly, shaking his head. It's not like that. Yes, it is, Adrian insisted, voice choking. You lie to my father and to me, but I'm not getting better. It was a deep-rooted fear in his heart, that he would never be all right again, that he was permanently crippled and broken and nothing would ever be the same. He would never be able to be Chad Noir again, or hang out with Ladybug, or even his friends. He would always be dependent, unable to help others, forever stuck at home. And although he was trying so hard to control it, he couldn't avoid developing a deep hatred for Hawkmoth and what he had done to them both. How he had permanently changed their lives. He gave a shuddering breath, trying to keep his emotions under control. Adrian, it's all right, Longwavy said soothingly, I'm sorry you had to hear that. Your damage is unlike anything I've seen before and your healing is, well, it's unnaturally slow. I really want to help you. I wish you would tell me what happened. What really happened, so I could understand better. Longwavy looked pointedly at him, but Adrian averted his gaze. Unfortunately for him, Longwavy was not the type to back off when faced with resistance. Acute infection and internal bleeding due to aspiration of toxic gases from the dragon's breath. Longwavy recited, that's the version they gave us. But it's not entirely true, is it? That's not what really happened. Adrian swallowed thickly, feeling a cold chill on his neck. He couldn't tell him the truth. He couldn't tell anyone else who he was. Too many people were in danger already by knowing his secret. I don't know, Adrian lied, I don't remember. I know you do remember, Adrian. I can see the change in your eyes when I bring it up, Longwavy said, lowering his voice to barely above a whisper. I also see how you start with loud noises, and how you tremble when it rains and lightning flashes. Even how you stiffen when someone so much as grazes your skin. Longwavy trailed off, watching Adrian's reaction closely, trying to find an answer in his teary eyes. Adrian remained decidedly silent, his lower lip trembling slightly as he tried to keep the moisture in his eyes at bay. Longwavy regarded him a few seconds longer before he sighed, scratching the back of his head. I won't force you to tell me if you don't want to, but Adrian. Longwavy reached out then, laying a comforting hand on Adrian's head. Please know that you can trust me. Trust that I want nothing but for you to be okay. I'm your doctor. I really want you to get better and I will find a way and do everything in my power to help you. Do you believe me? Adrian was silent, trying hard to swallow the lump in his throat. Do you believe me, Adrian? Longwavy asked again. ... Yes, Adrian croaked, tears finally escaping the corners of his eyes. There, Longwavy said gently, reaching with a thumb to wipe a tear from Adrian's cheek. I know you're scared, but you will get better, I promise. We'll make you okay again, no matter what it takes. Do you mean it this time? Adrian asked him, turning to him with glassy eyes. I do, with every part of me, Longwavy said, smiling warmly at Adrian. How are you feeling right now? A little nauseous, Adrian said, wiping his nose and eyes with his sleeve. What about the pain? It's bearable, I guess. Do you want to try getting off the bed? Your friends promised to visit today, remember? I don't know if I can, Adrian said. He might have been excited about the prospect last week, but now, his mind was not entirely in a good place. He didn't know if he could humor his friends in his current state or if he was ready to move his broken body. Won't know if you don't try. It will do you good to see other faces other than my old, ugly mug, Longwavy said with a chuckle, but it's your choice. Are you up for it? I guess, Adrian said, shrugging his shoulder. All right, rest for a while, and we will give it a try in an hour. 2. Marinette plus 336533257. Adrian 12:32 p.m. Hey Marinette, I wish you were here right now. Adrian 12:34 p.m. I'm not feeling too good. Things aren't looking too bright for me. I'm really scared. Adrian 12:36 p.m. Sometimes I just don't want to wake up anymore. I'd rather stay with you. Adrian 12:37 p.m. I know it's not real, but I don't know. It's hard to stay positive. I'm trying, but it's been 3 weeks. I don't know if I'll ever truly be okay again. Adrian 12:39 p.m. Sorry, I'm being selfish and a downer lately. I'm so sorry. Nino and Aaliyah are visiting today, so I'll try to perk up. I don't want them worrying, and company should be nice for a change. I'll be going out for the first time in 3 weeks, so I'm a little bit excited about that at least. I miss the outside. Adrian 12:41 p.m. I miss when we patrolled the city together too. I hope we can get that back. Please wake up soon. Adrian 12:41 p.m. Sorry, there I go again. Adrian 12:43 p.m. On the bright side, I heard it's been going great for you though. I'm really happy for you and I can't wait till you're back on your feet. I need to go now, BT. I'll text you soon. Have a big talk with Nino and Aaliyah today. I'll let you know how it goes. Adrian 12:45 p.m. Miss you. And that's the last one, Longwavy said, gently redressing the last of Adrian's burns and applying a bandage on his right shoulder blade. Now that's healing nicely. Does it sting less? A little bit, Adrian said, eyes downcast and back hunched over on the edge of bed as Longwavy laced the hospital robe across his back again. Ready to give moving a try. Adrian shrugged noncommittally, straightening on the bed and stroking the fresh bandaging around his burnt neck, idly noticing his hair had grown longer and unruly. Not like maintaining his appearance was of any importance now. With all the scarring and damage on his skin, modeling was no longer a viable career path. Not that he really cared anymore. All right then, Longwavy said, walking around to stand at Adrian's side. Now wrap your arm around my shoulders. Adrian did, mindful of not pulling on his broken arm in the process. Adrian paused briefly, breathing deeply. It was the first time he was going to move in weeks and he felt nervous and wary of how his body was going to react with the motion. Giving him a hesitant nod, Longwavy began inching Adrian closer to the edge of the bed. Easy now, one step at a time, Longwavy instructed as he held on to Adrian's right arm, slowly easing Adrian off the bed. Adrian grunted as he slid down and his feet touched the ground, his legs, weakened from disuse, shaking beneath him. Adrian hissed as he tried to take a step and his knees buckled, causing Longwavy to grip him from the waist to hold him up. It hurts, Adrian choked as he tried to regain his balance, legs trembling and unstable. He felt extremely thin and frail, and he wobbled in his stance as Longwavy held him firmly in place. I know. Your muscles have grown weak, you will need to exercise to get that strength back, the doctor explained, but don't worry about it for now. As soon as your arm is ready for decasting, you'll go to therapy. You'll be back on your feet in no time. Yeah, I hope, Adrian said with a hint of bitterness in his voice as the doctor began edging him to the wheelchair he had prepared beside him, gently seating him down and easing his legs over the supports. How does it feel? Longwavy asked, taking a syringe and a bottle from the pocket of his white coat and preparing it for an injection. Weird. My legs are all tingly, Adrian commented, rubbing his thigh in concern. It's the blood flow adjusting, Longwavy said, rubbing the spot on the underside of Adrian's arm where his vein was. It's okay. It will feel strange for a few days, but your body will begin falling into its old self soon enough. You've been through a lot, Adrian, remember? I know, Adrian lamented. I know that given our earlier conversation this may not mean much right now, but you're doing great for someone who went through what you did, Longwavy said very softly, gently injecting the painkiller into Adrian's arm. Both you and Miss Marinette are very brave. Adrian furrowed his brows at the mention of Marinette. I don't see how getting hurt is being brave. We were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I honestly believe that the reason you were at those places, at those times, is what makes you two brave, Longwavy said, looking up meaningfully at Adrian. The hairs on the nape of Adrian's neck stood on end, and he wasn't sure if it was from the medication's cold contents or the implication in Longwavy's words. What do you mean? Longuevy fixed him with a serious stare, brown eyes boring into Adrian's green ones. His gaze then traveled to Adrian's scarred arm, the one whose vein he was now soothing. He gently removed the syringe and turned his arm around, running a thumb up the white lines branching out of Adrian's ring finger. "I'm sorry I couldn't help you with this one," Longuevy said. "You saved my life," Adrian replied. "It's more than I could have asked for." "No, that was all you." Longuevy looked at him again, "and that is what I find most amazing and peculiar." Peculiar. Longuevy was quiet for a moment, before he spoke again in a low voice. "There's something I need to talk to you about, Adrian." Adrian gulped, feeling a cold chill down his back. "What about?" But just then, the sound of knocking came from the door, and Longuevy paused, words dying in his throat. He sighed, stealing a glance at the door beside him. "We'll talk later, your friends are here." "No, wait," Adrian said, grabbing his arm. "What is it?" "Later, Adrian," Longuevy said, and before Adrian could protest further, he stood up and walked away, discarding the used syringe container into the biomedical waste and dropping the bottle in a nearby trash bin. "This should keep the pain under control for an hour. Enjoy your day with your friends," Longuevy said before he turned to the door. "Come in." And just like that, Longuevy's kindly facade, the one Adrian knew was just a front, was back. Adrian breathed in the scent of wet soil and greenery as Nino wheeled him to the hospital courtyard, exhaling a satisfied sigh. He forced himself to push his thoughts on Longuevy's odd talk out of his head and to remain calm. Although curiosity ate at him, he was not going to waste his first time out in around 3 weeks pondering about the doctor's strange behavior. The courtyard was a square area situated in the middle of the hospital, surrounded by the rest of the building. A great fountain sat in the middle, surrounded by plants and lush hedges pin-pricked with small white flowers. Benches littered the sides of the numerous pathways criss-crossing the place, not unlike the larger and more popular Jardin des Plantes. It was a sight for sore eyes for Adrian to be out in the open once again. As much as he loved the beautiful paradise he and Marinette would often find themselves in dreams, nothing could beat the feel and smell of the real thing. "Good to be out again, huh?" Nino asked him. Although Aaliyah had also visited, Plag included, she had stayed behind, insisting that Adrian should spend some time alone with this best friend to talk things through first. Some kind of bro code they apparently had, not that Adrian was against it. "Yeah, it's great to have some fresh air again," Adrian replied. "It was getting stuffy in there." "And you've been asleep through the majority of your stay. Imagine if you'd been awake the whole time, dude." Nino chuckled and Adrian cringed, though Nino didn't seem to notice. "Probably would have needed to transfer you to the psychiatric ward." "Har har, hilarious," Adrian quipped, though silently agreed, kind of glad Nino didn't know the full extent of what Adrian had been going through both physically and mentally. "Want to rest up by that bench?" Adrian asked, pointing to the quaint iron benches surrounding a grand fountain in the middle of the courtyard. "Yeah, sure," Nino said, leading them both towards the fountain. Once there, Nino stationed Adrian's wheelchair and sat down on the iron bench beside him, spreading his arms on the back of it with a sigh. They were silent for a few moments, simply admiring the scenery and taking in the relaxing sound of the flowing water and the birds chirping in the sky. It was an overcast November morning, and although it was cold, Adrian reveled in the chilliness of the air against his skin, making him feel the most alive he'd felt in weeks. He knew he'd have to go back to his room soon to get hooked up when the pain got intense again, but for now, he'd enjoy the rare opportunity of respite. But as companionable as their silence was, however, Adrian still felt a kind of tension in the air, and he knew he needed to break it sooner rather than later. So, Adrian started awkwardly, fidgeting with the blanket covering his legs, eyes trained on a little bird who had perched on the topmost ledge of the fountain to take a bath. "You know." "I do," Nino replied simply, his eyes focused on the same bird. "How long?" "Since the night on the railway," Nino replied calmly, though Adrian could see how forlorn his eyes looked when he said it. "I see." Adrian had been the one to start the conversation, but now he didn't know how to continue it, and what? Nino shot him a side glance, an eyebrow quirked. Adrian took a pacifying breath and rubbed at the back of his neck. "I guess, I wanna know what you think. I mean, it's, well." Nino chuckled and Adrian paused. "Don't hurt yourself, dude. It's no big deal." "No big deal." Adrian looked at him, eyebrows furrowed in disbelief. "I mean, it was a big deal, but that was weeks ago," Nino shrugged, "when we were told you were probably dead and Aaliyah blurted your secret out to me in a fit of hysterics. It's been a long 3 weeks, man. I can still hear everything in my head." "What do you mean everything?" Adrian asked, taken aback. "Your dad shouting, Aaliyah's crying, you're screaming." "My screaming?" Adrian narrowed his eyes in confusion. He didn't recall screaming when Nino visited him a week ago. What screaming? During the first few days, remember? No. Adrian tilted his head. Elaborate. Nino's eyebrows raised and he breathed in deeply, clicking with his tongue. Well, I guess it was bad enough that your brain blocked the memory or something, Nino commented, laying his elbows on his knees and rubbing his hands for warmth, like what he was about to tell Adrian had a great weight on his heart. After they revived you, you were agonizing for days, Nino said, lowering his head and staring at his hands, his eyes turning glassy as if he was revisiting an unpleasant memory. You were unresponsive, just tossing and screaming. They had to tie you down and put you to sleep because you wouldn't stop crying in pain and ripping all the tubes off. It got so bad once you couldn't even breathe. They had to intubate you. Nino turned to him, quirking an eyebrow. You really don't remember? What? No, I don't remember any of it, Adrian said, eyes widened in surprise. He didn't even recall the night he supposedly came back to life. His memories went from lying in the tunnel in Madame Cheng's arms to waking up to the doctor removing the tube from his throat. Nothing in between. I guess it's for the best you don't, dude. Nino said, rubbing his arms, more out of the chill of the memory than the weather. Your dad was a wreck. He wouldn't let anyone see you for days, especially 'cause the media was swarming over you. Son of a Grest attacked by Akuma, etc. It was pretty crazy, man. They only started backing off when your dad threatened with a lawsuit. My dad was with me. Adrian asked. Every day. Nino confirmed, for as long as he could until he had to go to work, I guess. He would only let Natalie in, or Madame Cheng. Madame Cheng. Why? Adrian questioned. Why Marinette's mother of all people? It wasn't like his father to let strangers near him. Maybe 'cause she was there the night they saved you. Aaliyah thinks it's 'cause you seemed to calm down a little bit when you heard her. Dunno, you tell me. Nino shrugged. How do you know all this? Adrian asked. I thought he wasn't letting anyone see me. Madame Cheng told us, Nino said. Dunno if you forgot this too, but you kinda transformed in her arms. She knows who you are. We're all in this now, and she would tell us how you were doing when we weren't allowed to see you, Plague especially. He was really worried about you. It was still unnerving to Adrian to hear Nino speak about Plague in such a nonchalant manner. Adrian breathed in and braced to make the question that was bugging him since the conversation started. How many people know? Does my father? Absolutely not. He has no idea, though I thought your father or Natalie would know, I mean, with how overbearing they are with you. Are you nuts? Adrian scoffed. Do you really think my dad would be happy with the idea of me going around jumping over the roofs of Paris in a cat suit? Nino suddenly broke out laughing and Adrian didn't realize how much he missed the sound until then. Touché, dude, touché, Nino chuckled. When you put it that way, I guess it's too crazy. So, who else? Adrian pressed. Aaliyah, me, and Marinette's parents, that's it. Adrian sighed. He was relieved the media hadn't gotten wind of this, and from the sounds of it, Nino and Aaliyah had kept his secret fiercely guarded. Nino, I really hope you know how important it is that no one else finds out. Ever. Adrian turned to his friend, looking at him seriously. I've put you in danger by letting you find out my identity. If Hawkmoth gets wind of who I am, I don't know what he would do to you, or anyone close to me. Relax, man, we understand, Nino said, putting a hand on Adrian's good shoulder and squeezing reassuringly. My girlfriend is an avid superhero nerd, remember? If there's anyone who understands how important secret identities are, it's her. Really? Adrian said, raising an eyebrow. Are we talking about the same girl who would literally put herself in harm's way to find out Ladybug's identity? Okay, I'll give you that one, but she's changed. Now that she realized Chat was you, Nino rubbed the back of his head. I guess it puts things into perspective, huh? Totally, Adrian said bitterly, recalling his own mixed feelings at finding out Ladybug was Marinette all along. Talking about the Hawkman, he's been super silent. Nino added. Really? Adrian asked. Yep, not one peep since you defeated his last villain, Nino said. Weird, Adrian said, though inwardly he was infinitely grateful to get a break in battling. What's the news saying about Chat Noir? All the lies Aaliyah has been telling them. Since she was there during the last attack, they have no choice but to take her testimony, Nino explained. She did it mostly to protect you. What did she say? Said Chad Noir was going to lay low for a while and let the city deal with the damage of the last Akuma. Asked the city to not call for him for everyday issues and to let him rest, stuff like that. Right, well, thank her for me. Adrian said with a genuine smile, feeling warm and fuzzy at how his friends took care of him even when he was out of commission. What happened to the boy? Adrian asked the dragon Akuma. Nino thought, placing a finger on his chin, went to the hospital, got checked out. I heard he almost got an aneurysm when he found out he almost killed a person. A famous one at that. Adrian scoffed. Dunno who he is, but he's fine last I heard. I don't think he'll ever be able to look you in the eye again, though. I'm honestly fine with that, Adrian sighed. That bad, huh? Nino asked, patting his back empathetically. You have no clue, Adrian said. I don't think I'll ever be fine again, Nino. Dude, don't say that, Nino said reassuringly. It'll be difficult, but we're here to support you, okay? You're not alone anymore, and while we are on the topic, Madame Cheng said you are welcome at their house anytime, any day, as Chad Noir or Adrian. There it was, his silver lining, cutting through the darkness in his head. He wasn't alone. Not anymore. Even if Ladybug wasn't there to fight with him, at the very least, he now had people he could depend on. Adrian smiled warmly, eyes stinging. Thank you, all of you. It's no problem, dude, Nino said, smiling sheepishly, and I guess it's as good a time as any to apologize. Apologize? For what? Adrian asked. For never doing anything, even though you weren't okay, Nino said, lowering his eyes to the ground again. I should have been a better friend and looked after you, ya know. Help you out even if I couldn't know who you really were or what you were doing, he sniffed. Nino, Adrian started, emotion building in his chest. There was no way you could have. I was hiding it, Nino. I didn't want anyone to know. It's not your fault. Adrian tried to assuage him, but he could see tears building up in Nino's eyes. He could tell he had been harboring this guilt for a while, and Adrian's heart ached for him. Even then, I noticed you were hella off, and I didn't do anything, Nino lamented, moisture building up in his eyes. I should have asked you if you were okay or if you needed anything or something. Nino, I would have lied anyway, Adrian insisted. I was pushing everyone away. Everything wrong with me was because of the Akumas I was fighting without Ladybug. How was I going to explain? I was scared too, Nino. It's not your fault, really. When you collapsed that day at school, Nino continued, brushing off Adrian's attempts at comforting him, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was wrong with you. And then you disappeared, and then, we were looking for you all over the city. No one had seen you and it was raining, and there was that blasted dragon, he hissed, and Adrian could see the anger line his friend's features. Nino paused and took a steadying breath, his eyes once again lowering, his voice going soft. Then that night Aaliyah called me at like 5 in the morning or something, and, gosh, my blood went all cold, man. Nino rubbed his arms, squeezing his eyes shut. Nino, don't do this, Adrian tried, grabbing his shoulder to calm him friend down, but he wouldn't be soothed. Aaliyah was crying rivers. I couldn't calm her down. At the time, they were told you were dead. Marinette's dad had overheard the doctor telling your dad you were dead. Nino looked at him, and the desolation he saw in Nino's eyes rattled Adrian to his very core. He was shot back to the past, a cold, rainy night, imagining just how unsettling and world-shattering it must have been to be woken up in early hours of the morning to receive the news that your best friend in the whole world was now dead. Nino sighed and lowered his eyes to the ground again. I could hear Madame Cheng crying, and Aaliyah was in hysterics. She told me everything, Nino explained, his tears now flowing freely as the memories came flooding back. All the emotion he had kept inside for Adrian's sake was bursting forth as he continued his story, his voice barely above a whisper now. How you were Chad Noir. How you had gotten attacked. How Madame Cheng revived you but you were just not there, how they took you to the hospital, how the doctors couldn't save you. Nino's lower lip trembled and his voice cracked, and all I could think of is how I had messed up, and how now I wouldn't have a chance to say sorry and make it up to you. Nino, please stop, Adrian said, his own tears building in his eyes. I'm here now, okay? I'm not dead. It's okay, Nino, I'm here. I'm not leaving. Nino looked at him then, eyes glassy and swollen, and surrounded Adrian with his arms, hugging him tight. You be better mean that, dude, Nino hiccuped. If you do that again I'm gonna drag you back from wherever you are and punch your ghost myself. Adrian laughed a watery laugh, hugging his friend back. They remained like that for a few minutes, just cementing the fact that they were both alive and reunited again, no secrets between them. It's good to have you back, dude, Nino said softly, pulling away and ruffling Adrian's hair gently. It's good to be back, Adrian smiled, wiping his eyes and clapping a hand on Nino's shoulder. Nino, what happened to the school? How's everyone? I think I caused a mess there. Adrian said, lowering his eyes in shame. Hey dude, stop that, Nino chastised. It's thanks to you that everyone survived. Everyone is okay. You were the only one hurt in the attack, to be honest. Really? Adrian pressed, his tone relieved. Yeah, a few scratches here and there, but everyone made it out and no one was badly hurt thanks to you. Nino smiled. The school had to be closed though. Too much damage, so they have to rebuild it. Mr. Damocles and Ms. Bustier set up an online platform so we could continue having class through video lessons and digital homework though. That way we won't fall behind. Ah, that's a great idea, Adrien commended. For sure. So, how long have you been Chat Noir? Nino said, wiping his nose with a sleeve. Was it always you, or? Yeah, it's always been me, Adrien said. So all those times you were late? Nino pressed. Yep, busy leaping around the rooftops of Paris in a catsuit. Adrien said with an amused smile and a shrug of his shoulders. Haha, yeah, Nino whistled, that explains so many things. Were you angry at me? Adrien asked him suddenly. When you found out, were you angry at me for keeping this from you? Well, once you were revived for good. I was scared, really surprised, and maybe somewhat okay, maybe not somewhat very hurt that you hadn't trusted me with that, Nino said and then raised a hand when Adrien was about to interject, but your tiny cat friend explained everything and how you had to keep it secret. I understand, Adrien, I really do, and you know I'll take your secret with me to the grave. Thank you, Nino, really. Adrien said softly. It's no problem, Nino said, then clapped his hands together. So, wanna give the place a few more rounds? Aaliyah is dying to see you, so we better get some mileage in before she sits you down and barrages you with questions forevermore. Adrien chuckled. All right, let's make it count. Have you told him yet? Longuevy sighed against the phone. Not yet. Didn't get the chance. He bit on the cigarette in his mouth, inhaling and releasing a thick puff of smoke into the air. He leaned on the railing, phone pressed to his ear as he watched Adrien stroll around with his friend in the gardens down below, chatting amicably. Smoking again, are we? Shouldn't you preach with the example, doctor? Longuevy chuckled, knowledgeable as ever, though you're hardly in a place to lecture me about preaching with the example, friend. The man on the other end of the line chuckled back. Your boy is quite the conundrum to me, Longuevy continued more seriously, sighing and scratching his forehead with his cigarette tucked between his index and middle finger. I moved them like you suggested. His burns and broken arm are healing steadily, but inside it's a whole different story. What have you gotten me into? What am I dealing with here? I'd need to see him to tell for sure, though I have a few suspicions. Which are, his father is becoming increasingly harder to convince. I need to give him results or we risk him transferring Adrien someplace else for care. His assistant has made that abundantly clear to me on repeated occasions lately. I'll tell you soon enough, please keep entertaining him, I just need a little bit more time. Let me know when he's to undergo therapy. Longuevy sighed, make it quick, then. Miss Dupain Cheng is doing fine and saw a jump in her improvement, but Adrien is flaking. He's losing his drive and his defenses are low. You need to help him. I don't need to remind you that the mind can also have adverse effects on the body. I know. He needs to hear good news, but I can't provide that if I don't know what I'm dealing with. I tried to get him to tell me what truly happened, but he doesn't trust me. Naturally. Please understand, they were instructed not to tell. Don't hold it against him. I know. I'm doing what I can, but it's hard to keep his spirits up. His father barely allows me to let visitors in with him since he doesn't want to stress him out despite my telling him that seeing his friends would help Adrien, not hurt him. The father is just as stubborn as the child, if not more so. Clearly. The man on the other end of the phone sighed. I know this has been difficult, but you're the only one I trust them with. I really appreciate all you've been doing for me. Please take care of them, Jerome. Of course I will. I care about them, too. Longuevy said softly, I just wish there was more I could do for them. This is beyond my expertise. You're a great doctor. Trust me, it'll work out. Longuevy sighed. Hope you're right. Sorry I couldn't do lunch, my stomach is kinda. Adrien made a gesture to signal so and Nino laughed. Don't worry dude, you didn't miss anything. Hospital food is kinda especially when you've been eating Marlena Césaire's homemade cooking. Perks of dating a chef's daughter, I guess. Nino said, wheeling Adrien down the hallway. I feel you there, Adrien said absently with a chuckle. Why, you also dating someone with chefs for parents? Nino teased, poking Adrien's head. Adrien blushed visibly, realizing the implication in his offhanded comment. Although he had never told Nino he was in love with Ladybug, it is likely Aaliyah had told Nino about Adrien's seemingly budding affection for Marinette, who had bakers for parents. And no, I mean the hospital food bit, Adrien tried to fix, it is kind of flavorless, huh? Right, I'm sure that's definitely what you meant, Nino teased, a huge smile plastered on his face. Oh, are we heading back now? Adrian said, trying again to divert attention from himself as he noticed his room nearing. Nah, not yet. I think we still need to do some updating, Nino said, wheeling him past his room and stopping in front of Marinette's. Adrian swallowed thickly, looking nervously at the door. Noticing his sudden stiffness, Nino paused. Only if you want to, dude. Are you feeling up for this? Nino asked him softly. We don't have to do this if you aren't feeling it. Adrian took a deep breath. From earlier implications, Adrian knew that Madame Cheng, Monsieur Dupain, Aaliyah, and Plague were all in the room together. It would be the first time he would acknowledge they all knew his secret, and he suddenly felt nervous, exposed. He had never pondered what he'd do once a moment like this came along, and now he felt he was being thrust into it with little preparation. He had to admit that part of his anxiety came from knowing that Marinette was Ladybug, who they thought dead but had in reality been fatally wounded because he had failed to protect her as Chat Noir. What would Madame Cheng say if she knew? Would she hate him? Resent him? He didn't think he could bear it if he was hated by Marinette's parents. He loved them too much now. It hurt to just think about it. And what about Aaliyah? Gosh, she'd probably rip him a new one if she knew. Call him useless and a disgrace for nearly letting her best friend get killed. He took a deep breath again to calm his anxious mind. No, they didn't know about her. If they did, Nino would have told him right. No, they only knew about him. Marinette's secret was still safe, and he very much doubted Plague would have blurted it out, given he had been the one to insist on secrecy way back then. He had to face this elephant in the room. Better deal with it now rather than later. Nino's reaction gave him confidence that their reactions wouldn't be as dramatic as he had originally thought now that they knew, but part of him was still wary and afraid. The doctor's strange behavior had made him paranoid. Adrian. Nino snapped him out of his reverie, and Adrian cleared his throat. Let's do it. Nodding, Nino opened the door and wheeled him in, closing the door behind him. He had expected to see everyone turn to him, maybe greet him. He did not expect being attacked by a mass of black that was now plastered to his face, rubbing its face against him. Hello, Plague, Adrian chuckled. Hello, Plague. Hello, Plagg. The Kwame gripped as he pulled back to look at Adrian better. I haven't seen you for weeks and all you can say is, hello, Plague. Sorry, I have no camembert to beg for forgiveness, Adrian said, lifting his hand to stroke Plague behind the ears, something the little god rarely allowed, but he supposed the circumstances had made him soft. I'll let you off for today, then. Plague chuckled. But I won't be as lenient next time. Naturally. I missed you, buddy. Adrian said, looking warmly at his companion. Plague's lips trembled, but he kept himself composed. Missed you too, you dumb kid. Plague floated down to sit on Adrian's shoulder as Nino wheeled him further in. Hey, if it's not the golden boy. Aaliyah greeted, sitting on the couch beside Marinette's parents. Freed from your cage, were you? Hey, Aaliyah, Adrian said. Nino knowingly wheeled him to rest beside Marinette's bed, close to the couch where Nino had just moved to sit beside Aaliyah. Madam, Monsieur, it's good to see you. We're so happy to see you, too, Adrian. Tom said, surrounding Sabine with his arm. It's great to see you up and about. Yeah, it's been a long time, Adrian agreed, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Adrian noticed with no little amount of nervousness that they all seemed to be waiting expectantly for him to speak first. So drawing in a deep breath, Adrian spoke. I guess I owe an explanation to everyone, now that you know, huh? He started. He glanced sideways at Plague, who merely shrugged his shoulders. Only if you want to, dear. Don't feel like you owe us anything. We're only glad that you're okay. Sabine said, reaching forward to lay a comforting hand on Adrian's knee. Thank you, madam, Adrian said gratefully, but I owe you that much for helping me out. If not for you all, I wouldn't be alive right now. Adrian, don't say that, Sabine said, taking a hand to her chest. Forgive me, but it's the truth, Adrian said, shaking his head. And not just once, but many times. Monsieur Dupain, Adrian turned to Tom, addressing him directly. If not for you, I wouldn't have gotten out of that fire. Adrian, we did it gladly. Anyone in their right mind would have helped you out. Tom countered. Except they didn't. Adrian said, the firefighters wouldn't help me. You and Aaliyah did. Adrian nodded toward Aaliyah, who blushed at the praise. You told them about the dragon's weakness. I was as good as dead if you hadn't spoken up. And you, he turned back to Marinette's father, you risked yourself trying to get me out of the rubble. At Tom's hesitance, Adrian continued. You and Madame Cheng even took me in and took care of me when I was at my lowest, Adrian said, fondly remembering how they had taken him out of the rain and treated his fever. You were in all your right to refuse me because of the danger I carried with me. Instead, you sheltered me and took care of me until I felt better. Adrian noticed Sabine's eyes were beginning to water at the memory and he turned to her, grabbing her hand. I'm sorry for running out on you, madam. I feel terrible for worrying you. Adrian said, bowing his head at Sabine, thank you for going after me. You gave me a second chance. If not for you and Aaliyah that night, I'd be gone for good. I'm indebted to you. Adrian, sweetheart, Madame Cheng sobbed, rising from her seat and hugging Adrian tightly to herself. I'm so infinitely grateful for you. There's nothing to thank. I'm so happy that you're with us. I'm happy to be here, too, Adrian said, trying to keep his own emotion at bay as Sabine pulled back and he looked at all of them, whose eyes were all brimming with emotion, all of you. I wouldn't have made it this far without you. Ladybug may not be with me anymore, but I was lucky to have you. Exactly how many of your 9 lives did you spend on this fight, dude? Nino joked, wiping his eye with a hand. I think all 9, to be honest, Adrian joked back. And all 9 of mine, too. Plag cut in. You don't have lives, you are an immortal god. Demigod, but close enough, Plag said, waving a paw nonchalantly. Speaking of which, thank you for taking care of him, Aaliyah, Adrian said, turning to his friend. I know he can be a bit of a handful. Hey, Plag snapped. It's no problem. He's good fun, Aaliyah said, then she winked. His taste for camembert not so much, took a bit to explain my newfound addiction to my mom. Everyone in this room has horrible taste, Plag scoffed, floating off Adrian's shoulder and resting on Madame Cheng's lap. Except her. Her camembert cheesecake is CRE acute me de la CRE acute me. Camembert cheesecake is a thing? Adrian asked, raising an eyebrow at Tom and Sabine. It is now. She made it just for me. Plag said proudly, floating over and rubbing on Sabine's cheek affectionately. Best baker in all of Paris. Spoiled cat. How many people have you inconvenienced with your stinky habit while I've been gone? Adrian said, putting his hand on his waist. Took turns between Aaliyah and Mama Cheng. Mama Cheng? Adrian questioned. Sabine shrugged with a smile. He's an affectionate little thing, she said in her defense. Yeah, with everyone but me it seems. Adrian pouted. Hey, don't start, Plag said. I've been worried sick about you. Can confirm, Aaliyah pitched in. He would visit you from time to time but couldn't stay long cause there were people in your room constantly. He was very anxious about the visit last week. We thought we'd be able to talk then. Yeah, sorry about that, my body, Adrian said sheepishly, looking down. Don't apologize, dude, we understand. It was a slip up on my part and I'm sorry. Nino said, the fact that we know your secret is no small thing. Talking about which, how much do they know? Adrian asked, turning to Plag. Basics. I thought it'd be best if you explained the rest. Plag shrugged, floating to rest on the wheel of Adrian's chair. Stage is yours, kid. Adrian looked at the others and they again looked at him expectantly and in silence. Well, Adrian rubbed the back of his neck. Plag is what we call a Kwami. He's a powerful magical creature and it's thanks to him that I can transform. He goes into my ring and I get a special suit and superpowers. So you guys just fuse. Is that how it works? Aaliyah said, her eyes wide open in interest. Adrian was sure that if it wasn't because of how private the matter was, that she'd be jotting down every word. I guess, it'd help if I demonstrated it. Plag, Adrian asked him, looking at his Kwami dubiously. Is it safe? Plag looked at him impassively then floated to the door to lock it. Knock yourself out, kid. I'm sure you've missed it. Adrian smiled gratefully at him. All right, Plag, transform me. Adrian watched as everyone gasped in awe as Plag flew to the ring and a bright green light enveloped him, his shiny black suit materializing across his body. His body shivered at the familiar feeling of leather wrapping over his skin, and at the surge of energy flowing through his veins, like a shot of adrenaline. Before long, Chad Noir stood in Adrian's place, tail swishing in excitement at being used again. Holy shish, Nino trailed off, eyes and mouth opened wide. You look so different. No wonder we couldn't recognize you. Remarkable, Sabine gasped beside an equally speechless Tom. This is amazing, Aaliyah said with a wide smile. Where's Plag? He's my suit. Or well, part of it, Chat said, wiggling his ears. He can hear and see everything I do. It's thanks to him that I have super reflexes and super strength, and that I can use Cataclysm. Can you use it right now? Nino asked. Are you nuts? He'd destroy everything, Aaliyah said, slapping him upside the head. Aaliyah is right. Besides, Cataclysm is a last resort. It uses a humongous amount of power in one go, and every time I use it I have 5 minutes before I turn back. Plag ends up exhausted and has to recharge by eating his food. Chad explained. Whoa, that explains why you guys had to disappear after you used your abilities, Aaliyah said, nodding. Exactly. I can transform back by removing my ring or just willing Plag to do so. Chad demonstrated, wordlessly reverting back to Adrian in a flash of green, and if I don't use Cataclysm, Plag is fine and peachy. I still won't refuse a good offer of Camembert, though, Plag said, rubbing his paws together in Aaliyah's direction. Aaliyah sighed and she conjured a piece of the offending cheese from her bag, which Plag excitedly took and gobbled up. Now that's what I'm talking about. I feel your pain, Adrian chuckled at Aaliyah's despondent expression. Truly, Aaliyah said, rolling her eyes, so where did you and Ladybug find your Kwamis? I can't tell you that, mostly because I don't really know. They just appeared one day. We just knew we were chosen. And why were you and whomever Ladybug was chosen? Aaliyah pressed. Adrian gulped, risking a glance in Marinette's direction. I don't know, I guess we just had what it took. Adrian said, shrugging his shoulders. We were just told repeatedly that we were chosen. Right, Plag? Yeah, it could be anything. Strength of character, goodness in the heart, empathy. It depends on the opinion of the Guardian taking care of us. By the way, don't ask about the Guardian, I won't elaborate. Plag added quickly, narrowing his eyes, just 'cause you know Adrian's secret now doesn't mean I'll reveal everything. Can we ask what happened to Ladybug's Kwami? Did it go back to whomever this Guardian is? Aaliyah asked. Classified, sorry girl. Plag said, shrugging his shoulders again. Adrian was silently grateful for Plag's no-nonsense coldness. An area Adrian lacked. It was worth a shot. Aaliyah chuckled. Wow, well, this is all pretty mind-blowing, Tom said, does your father know? No, and it's super important that you do not tell him. Adrian said hurriedly. No one else can know. I really need you guys to keep this an absolute secret for your own safety, and mine. Of course, Adrian, your secret is safe with us, Aaliyah said, putting a hand on her chest. Promise. We all do. Tom confirmed. And once you're out of here, if you ever need a place to rest or recharge, our home is open at every hour for you. I took the liberty of adding our numbers to your phone before Nino gave it back to you. Make no mistake, I truly wish you didn't have to do this, Sabine said, holding Adrian's hand, risking your life, putting yourself in danger, but I know it's what you have to do. I will never stop worrying, but I will always support you. Madam, Adrian said, voice trailing off as his eyes began to sting. We'll always support you, Adrian. Tom confirmed with a nod, holding both Sabine's hand and Adrian's in his large one. Thank you, Adrian said, bowing his head again. You're all amazing. Anytime, dude. Nino said, you can come crash at my place if you need to, too. And mine. Aaliyah said, I'll make sure you have a stash of stinky cheese for your pal, too. Nice. Sidekicks. Plag said, I like them already. Only 'cause they mentioned the cheese. Adrian pouted. Talking about which, Aaliyah is gonna leave some for you. Plag said. I'm not eating your stinking cheese. Adrian said, scrunching his nose in disgust. Who said it was for you? Plag said. What? I'm staying here and watching over you, whether you like it or not. Plag said with a decided nod. What? No, they'll discover you. Adrian countered. Why don't you stay with Aaliyah? Sorry, I'm staying here, end of discussion. Plus, there's something I need to check. Which is? Adrian asked, eyebrow raised. That's for me to know and you to ponder. Now, stop complaining. Plag said, crossing his arms. I'm starting to rethink whether I missed you or not now. Well, boo-hoo for you. Was the food all right, mister? Aggressed. The nurse asked Adrian as she gently wiped his mouth and removed the empty food tray from the bed. It was. Thank you, miss. Adrian said amicably, sinking into his blankets with a yawn. Did you enjoy yourself with your friends today? She asked, making small talk as she made the ritualistic check of up his IVs and monitors. Aaliyah and Nino had long since left, the sun having set an hour ago. He had wanted to speak more with everyone, but shortly after Plag had declared that he'd be staying, his painkiller had run its course and he had to be taken and hooked up again before the pain became too much to bear and he broke in front of everyone, something he definitely didn't want them to see. He had promised them all they'd talk about everything at a later date and allowed himself to be wheeled away, Plag and a packet of sealed-off Camembert safely hidden within his blanket. Barry, please tell Drive. Longwavy, I send my thanks for the help. Adrian said, voice low and soft. Will do. Glad to hear you enjoyed yourself, you've been doing great lately, she said with a smile, fluffing his pillows and adjusting his bed, but it's been a long day for you, so I'll leave you to rest. Your medication should be kicking in soon. Good night, Mr. Agrest. Good night, miss, Adrian mumbled, eyes slipping closed as he relaxed into the bed. The nurse subdued the lights and left, silently closing the door behind her. After a few minutes, lulled by the steady beep of his monitors and the relaxing effects of the morphine he'd been administered, it didn't take long for Adrian to completely pass out. Gee, I thought she'd never leave, Plagg griped as he slipped from his hiding place under Adrian's pillow, rubbing his eyes. Plagg turned to Adrian's sleeping form. He breathed calmly against his pillow, completely unaware of Plagg, lost to the world. Floating down to sit on the bed's railing, Plagg perked his ears for any incoming wards, but hearing nothing, he focused on Adrian again. Hey, Plagg whispered to the sleeping Adrian, are you there? Adrian didn't stir, breathing soundly against the bed. I need to talk to you. Come out, Plagg tried again, the vaguest hint of a hiss in his voice. Akuma. Adrian didn't react or acknowledge him, chest rising and falling slowly. After a few minutes of no response, Plagg huffed angrily, his patience spent. He was about to float down to hide under Adrian's bed when a soft chuckle stopped him. Ah, you missed me. Plagg turned to see Adrian grinning at him, eyes open to half-mast with the green in his eyes replaced by glowing magenta, and his pupils thin and slitted like a cat's. I'm touched, the Akuma said, tilting his head and putting his hand on his heart mockingly. Shut up, Plagg hissed, the fur on the nape of his neck rising, I'll cut to the chase. I've heard what the doctor's been saying about Adrian. What are you doing to him? Sorry. The Akuma smirked sardonically. I'm just keeping his heart going, if that's what you. That's not what I mean. Plagg yelled, then lowered his voice again. Can Adrian listen to this conversation? Not a clue. He's currently frolicking with our dreamy girlfriend in Dreamland, the Akuma sighed in an exaggerated manner, pointing at his temple. She's not your girl, ugh, whatever. Plagg said, throwing his paws in the air, that's not important, it's not what I wanted to talk about. Then what, pray tell, did you wake me for? Why are you not letting him heal? Plagg asked him, eyes narrowed. The Akuma scoffed, why are you so intent on blaming me for everything? Because you're an Akuma. Well, isn't that prejudiced? The Akuma snickered, feigning hurt with a hand on his heart. In this day and age too. Tisk tisk, Plagg. It isn't funny. Plagg insisted, it's been 3 weeks and he hasn't gotten any better. Why are you doing this? Okay, let's get some things straight here, Cat, the Akuma hissed, eyes narrowed, how many times do I have to tell you I have nothing against Adrian? I'm the reason he's alive. His heart is charred, I'm the one keeping it beating for crying out loud, and mind you, that's no small feat. It takes everything out of me. In a way Plagg could tell it was so. He could see Adrian's expression become strained, and his breathing get heavier the more he spoke. Secondly, the Akuma continued, eyes venomous, for a god of destruction, you certainly don't understand the extent of your own power. What did you say? Plagg's ears flattened against his head. Oh, but how could you really? The Akuma went on, smiling derisively, none of them ever survived, did they? Unable to control it, self-destructing. Shut up, Plagg screeched, his eyes widening in fury. The life leaving their eyes when just a smidgen of it touched their frail, tender bodies. Stop it. Dropping, before they could even realize what had happened. Dead, like moths to flame. Enough. I get it, Plagg said, turning his back on Adrian, I don't care to hear it. The truth hurts, huh? The Akuma whispered, tilting his head again with a soft smile on his lips, but the truth is the answer to your question right now. Plagg turned to him, Cataclysm. The Akuma nodded at him again, it's not that he can't heal at all, but it's slow. Damage by Cataclysm doesn't heal like regular damage. Magic can only be cured by other magic. He will improve, but it will take a while because the heaviest damage was done by magic. So he can't be healed completely. Plagg said, his whiskers drooping at the prospect. Adrian will be sick forever. The Akuma chuckled. Ah, how I love to see you like this, the Akuma said, earning a hiss from Plagg, but I guess it's for my own good that I tell you. Tell me what? Plagg spat. I'll give you a clue, the Akuma said with a smile, when a forest burns to the ground, only the rain can cleanse the land enough for life to grow back again, right? The Akuma paused, letting his words sink in. Plagg's eyes widened and the Akuma's smirk grew wider. Ladybug. Bingo. Good job. If I had one, I'd give you a golden star, the Akuma cackled. Only Ladybug can heal him. Plagg repeated, more to himself than to the Akuma. It's a mighty convenient thing the doctor placed Marinette just beside Adrian's room, the Akuma commented, raising a brow. What an amazing coincidence, wouldn't you say? But Plag paused, catching the Akuma's implication. You're not saying, but Plag stopped when the Akuma winced suddenly, clutching at his chest. What is it? I think it's my cue to bid you adieu, the Akuma said, breathing heavy as he watched the line on Adrian's heart monitor move erratically. Gonna ride this wave of medication with Adrian, if you don't mind. Wait, hey no, don't go to sleep. I'm not done talking, Plag said, floating towards him. Look cat, the Akuma huffed impatiently, Adrian depends on these dreams to remain sane, and I depend on him remaining relaxed to do my part. If you really care about him, you will leave me alone. This heart won't pump on its own anymore and I tire just by talking to you. Plag hesitated, but seeing the Akuma's gruff breathing, he chose to concede, all right, just keep him safe, okay. We had a deal. And I've honored it, have I not? The Akuma said, trust me, I want Adrian to survive as much as you do. I'm connected to him now. He goes, I go, too, ngh. The Akuma clutched at his heart again. Damn it, he's getting restless, I need to go. Restless? Plag asked, vaguely noticing the green line in Adrian's heart monitor spike again. What do you mean he's restless? Does he know about you? No, but, the Akuma wheezed, there's something happening, in his dream, and his heart is racing, I need to go. Akuma, wait. But the Akuma ignored him, laying back down and closing his eyes with a deep sigh. Adrian's breathing evened out as the Akuma relinquished his hold and disappeared into Adrian's subconscious once more. Plag waited silently, watching the line in Adrian's heart monitor return back to normal. Please be okay, Plag begged under his breath, whiskers drooping at the grim prospect of his charge's now unpredictable existence. Adrian. Yes, Marinette. I feel weird, she whispered, resting her head against his shoulder. Adrian furrowed his brows in concern, noting her tired face and droopy shoulders. She looked under the weather and miserable, very different to her usual glowing, relaxed demeanor. He couldn't deny that he felt something was off with her the moment the dream materialized around him. She had been waiting for him, reclined against a foot of the tower, her head hanging low. However, the moment she heard him approaching, she raised her head and smiled at him as if nothing had happened. He had thus ignored it, thinking she had probably just gotten bored. But now, as they sat on a hill together to watch the world twist and form beautiful shapes and colors around them to their whim, he noticed her acting strange again, her gaze lost and unfocused. She had finally ended up leaning against him, knowing exactly where to place her head even though she couldn't see him, just from the sheer time they had spent together. Weird. What are you feeling? Adrian asked her, finding her hand and squeezing it. What's wrong? I don't know, Marinette breathed, I feel so tired and dizzy. Adrian straightened, his stomach tightening. Dizzy. How long have you been feeling like this? A while, Marinette confessed, but it wasn't as bad before, I didn't think. She trailed off, her eyelids drooping, suddenly feeling heavy against him. Marinette? Adrian asked in worry, preoccupied by how her voice had died in her throat and how she was now resting completely against him. Marinette, please say something. Tower, Marinette slurred suddenly, I want to go to the tower. She attempted to stand up, her arms trembling as she tried to find her feet. Mari? Adrian asked, are you okay? She didn't reply but shakily got to her feet, her legs trembling with her weight and her frame swaying. Adrian, she repeated, holding her head, I feel strange. Adrian jumped to hold her aloft as she teetered on collapse, his own hands trembling as he held her. Marriott, please stay with me, he begged, walking her slowly down the hill, stay with me. Her lips opened but no sound came out. Suddenly her legs gave in and she fell to the ground, Adrian falling with her. He kneeled at her side and held her to him. He noticed with no little amount of panic that her body was starting to become lightweight and white, the edges of her dress wisping away like mist. Marinette, Adrian cried, holding her, what's wrong? Please, talk to me. Adrian, Marinette said barely above a whisper, her eyelids drooping. Mari, Adrian begged, please, don't leave. She heaved a long sigh and her eyes slid closed, her whole body going slack against him. Before he could even call her name again, Marinette melted from his hands, disappearing in a cloud of white mist, leaving him alone and lost in the wide, open field. The shock of losing Marinette was such that Adrian snapped right awake with a gasp, breathing hard and heart hammering hard against his chest. He had no idea what had just happened or why Marinette was acting so erratically. She had seemed fine the night before, what had changed? She had felt dizzy. Marinette had felt dizzy and strange. He had only felt those things when With a gasp of realization, Adrian yanked the covers and straightened, pulling his legs over the edge of the bed. He grabbed on the cables that tethered him to the bed, pulling them out without hesitation. The monitors around him started beeping in alarm, but he ignored it. Hey, what's happening? Where's the fire? A groggy Plag asked, zipping from underneath Adrian's bed in alarm. Marinette. Adrian said there's something wrong with her. With a deep breath, Adrian slowly lowered himself from the bed with his one functional arm, his toes touching the cold floor. He pushed himself off the mattress, his weakened legs trembling fiercely under his weight. He took a few experimental steps and lost his balance, falling down to his knees with a grunt. Whoa, kid, stay in bed. I can go check for you. Plag said, pulling on Adrian's robe. You're gonna get hurt. Pain exploded from every inch of Adrian's body, but he ignored it, clinging to the remnants of morphine still flowing through his veins. If he had to drag himself in all fours to Marinette's room to get to her, he was going to do just that. No, Adrian huffed, I'll check her myself. Determined and ignoring his dizziness, Adrian crawled to the wall, using it as support and pushing the door open. He pushed against the wall of the hallway, rising to his shaking feet and wobbling as fast as he could to Marinette's room beside his. Suddenly, a gasp stopped him, and Adrian turned his head, finding Madame Cheng standing behind him with a bag of what he assumed was a late-night lunch clutched in her hands. Adrian, what are you doing out of bed? She asked in alarm, immediately running to his side and dropping her bag to help him. She turned on Plag, her eyes disapproving. Plag. Hey, don't look at me, I tried to stop him, too. Plag said, pulling his paws up in defense. I need to see her, Adrian grunted, allowing Madame Cheng to surround his waist with her arm to support him. I need to see Marinette, please. Adrian, you will get hurt. I need to see Marinette. Adrian repeated more desperately, eyes begging the Asian woman to understand the urgency behind his words. Please, I need to see her. Why? She questioned, worry suddenly filling her eyes. I need to know she's okay. Adrian insisted, I had a bad dream and I need to see her. A hint of realization dawned on Madame Cheng's face and she nodded, grabbing Adrian's arm so he could put it around her shoulder. All right, dear, just hang on to me, okay? Thank you, Adrian said, breathing heavy, limping forward as Madame Cheng slowly started making her way to the room. Thank you so much. They made it to the door, and Madame Cheng grabbed the knob, pulling the door open in a hurry. She then walked Adrian to Marinette's bedside, seating him down on a nearby chair. He inched forward and rested his arm on the bed, reaching out for Marinette's inert hand. She was breathing calmly, completely still, except for her brows which were furrowing. Marinette, Adrian whispered, his heart now thumping in his ears, can you hear me? But she did not respond. She went on sleeping soundly, her machines beeping intermittently, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing out of place. Everything the same. He waited for several minutes, squeezing her hand. Marinette. But she did not stir. With every minute that elapsed, he could feel his body grow cold again, hope snuffing out as he deflated, his body aching with pain now that his adrenaline rush was decreasing. He had thought that perhaps, her disappearance meant that she had. But no, she was still gone to the world and he couldn't keep the moisture from gathering in his eyes in disappointment, choking back a sudden sob. He lowered his head, resting it on the mattress beside her as a lonely tear escaped his eye and soaked the pristine white sheets. I'm sorry, I thought she had, Adrian couldn't finish, overtaken by grief. Oh, sweetheart, Madame Cheng said sadly, wrapping her arms around Adrian and stroking his head. It's all right, do you want to stay here a while? Adrian nodded slowly against the mattress, sniffing silently. He didn't think he could move anymore anyway. His drive had completely left him. Adrian felt her move behind him, and then felt the warm weight of a blanket being laid around his shoulders. Madame Cheng then sat beside him, rubbing his back gently. Before long, the remnants of morphine in his blood coupled with Madame Cheng's relaxing attention soon sunk him in a deep sleep once more, his fingers wrapped around Marinette's hand. But he wouldn't be soothed, now that his dreams were a vast, empty plain where he was completely alone and Marinette was nowhere to be found. Where are you? Dr. Longwavy. The patient Mr. Agreste has. Leave him, Longwavy said calmly, not lifting his eyes from his notes as he worked diligently on his report, completely unperturbed by the nurse's distress as she came to alert him of Adrian's escapade. Leave him. But, he pulled everything out. And the medication, and Miss Dupain Cheng, she. Leave him, the doctor repeated looking up briefly from his writing to gaze pointedly at the nurse. I'll go fetch him soon. For now, let him be. Madame Cheng is in the room. He'll be fine. The nurse looked at him curiously for a few moments before excusing herself and leaving. By her expression, Longwavy wouldn't have been surprised if she had begun to doubt his sanity or medical training, but he cared little. He had been completely aware of Adrian's precarious venturing the moment he disconnected the monitors from his skin, and had even gone to get him himself. But upon reaching the room, seeing him laying with Marinette with hands clasped and deeply asleep as if he had been hit with a potent tranquilizer, made Longwavy reconsider taking him away. The dose of morphine they had given him that night was not strong enough to keep him knocked out, just enough to numb the worst of the pain. So to see Adrian sleeping placidly off his own accord, with little aid from sedatives, gave Longwavy an idea. The mind was a strong, but fickle, little thing. Despite the brittle physical condition that had earlier confined him to a wheelchair, Adrian's emotion had been strong enough to get him out of bed and move him to a different room that night, something that had so far been unprecedented since he was admitted. So, if modern medicine was doing little to aid him in this area, Longwavy would turn to psychology. It was a risk he was taking, to cater to Adrian's aching need for affection and company. He'd probably never hear the end of it from Monsieur Agreste and his assistant, but he'll be damned if he didn't take the plunge. So, making up his mind, Dr. Longwavy let Madame Cheng know of his intentions and left the room, eager to see the results of his hypothesis come morning. He only hoped that he'd see what he had suspected for several days be proven true. After what felt like hours, Adrian stirred awake again, the room sunk in darkness. Madame Cheng had long since dozed off on the couch close to him, wrapped in a thick comforter with plaid tucked warmly within the folds of fabric close to her chin. Looking at the time on a nearby wall clock, he was mildly surprised that nurses hadn't come to seek him out. They should have found out by now that he had disconnected everything and escaped. That aside, discomfort had prodded his senses into awakening and he huffed impatiently, bothered by the now familiar feeling of pain throughout his body but particularly, a weird feeling of pressure on his fingers. He wriggled them, trying to ease the numbness, but the pressure wouldn't soften and he suddenly felt movement beside him. Meekly looking up, his sleepy eyes blinked repeatedly, trying to make out the fuzzy shapes in the dark. A subtle kind of shine and the sound of stilted breathing stood out in the dark and Adrian tilted his head in confusion. As his eyes adjusted and things around him became clearer, Adrian's heart suddenly leapt in his chest and his breathing got stuck in his throat. For what he found staring back at him as intently as his green eyes were a pair of bright blue eyes belonging to a very drowsy, very confused Marinette. Notes. Final Fantasy Fanfairy https://www.youtube.com/watch. V equals YCNA0NSNK. Lol. Reminder, as you could see from how long it took to make this chapter 1, have no idea when the next one will come. They just happen. It may take days like it may take weeks. So please don't pressure me and ask me when the next one is coming because I don't know and it's maddening and stressful. Thank you.